When was the last time you actually felt your birthday? Not just replying thanks to a few dry text messages, but truly feeling it. Like you did when you were 10 years old. Your heart used to thump with pure excitement at the sight of balloons, the cake, everyone's eyes turning toward you for one small, sacred day. Now, you fast forward to adulthood. The same date comes and goes, but it feels completely numb. You wake up, cold sweat. You check your phone. Just a few automated notifications. Maybe your mom calls. You move on. You tell people you don't really celebrate. You shrug it off. It's just another day, right? But is it really? Or is that casual indifference just a beautifully constructed lie? Because underneath that shrug, there's a quiet story. A story about hidden youth trauma. People who treat their birthday like a normal day aren't cold or detached. They're usually the ones who have learned to hide their expectations because disappointment taught them to. They learned the hard way. Psychologically, birthdays are brutal emotional mirrors. They reflect exactly how you feel about being alive, how you handle attention, and how terrifying it is to be seen. When someone says they don't care about their birthday, they might want you to think they're mature. But sometimes what they really mean is, I stopped expecting anyone to care. Did I just ruin everything by hoping? There's a massive difference between maturity and emotional withdrawal, and birthdays have a strange, cruel way of showing us which one we've leaned into over the years. Some people genuinely grow out of the excitement, finding peace in ordinary, quiet routines. To them, joy isn't confined to a calendar date, but for others, the story is dark. For them, birthdays bring an unbearable, subtle anxiety, not because of getting older, but because of memory. Heavy silence, a dry throat. Birthdays remind them of the exact moments they felt entirely forgotten. They once cared too much, and they got crushed by unmet expectations. So instead of whispering, "This year, I hope someone remembers," they protect themselves. It's just another day. It's defense mechanism disguised as indifference, and it tells us exactly how your mind adapts to pain. When you experience repeated emotional letdowns, your brain quietly lowers the bar to keep you alive. It's emotional self-protection. You reduce anticipation to absolute zero to avoid the drop. You teach yourself not to hope too loud, because loud hopes invite loud crashes. The brain aggressively prioritizes stability over excitement, when excitement has historically led to agony. But here is the tragic twist. Over time, that armor suffocates you. The heart that once shielded itself becomes a little too careful, a little too dead. You start walking through your own life like an uninvited guest at someone else's party. Polite, observant, completely distant. Think about how many people force a smile and say, "Oh, I don't really do birthdays." But later that night, in the dark, they quietly replay the day in their mind. They notice exactly who didn't message, who forgot, who said absolutely nothing. They're staring. I know they are. We all do it, even the ones who claim they don't care, because pretending not to care is just caring inverted, compressed, and hidden under a heavy shell of composure. Psychologists call this avoidant validation behavior. You convince yourself you don't need recognition, because a broken part of you fears not getting it. It develops in kids who learned early on that their emotional needs were an inconvenience to the adults around them. It was just easier to need nothing than to be disappointed again. When you meet someone who treats their birthday like a normal day, don't assume they're numb. They've just made peace with disappointment. They traded excitement for control, but control has a devastating cost. Because underneath the calm surface lies a raw, emotional truth. We all desperately want to be seen, not praised, not celebrated with grand, fake gestures, but genuinely seen. There's something deeply symbolic about birthdays. They mark your existence, the one day a year that belongs entirely to you, simply because you exist. For many, that reminder brings a suffocating cocktail of nostalgia and loneliness. Birthdays remind us of time. They remind us how far we've come, and exactly how far we haven't. That's the silent psychological trigger most people overlook. For some, treating their birthday like a normal day is their way of keeping time from feeling too heavy. If I don't make it a big deal, then it won't feel like another year is slipping through my fingers. In childhood, birthdays connect us to belonging. In adulthood, that spotlight feels completely terrifying. Many adults quietly wrestle with a violent inner tug-of-war between wanting to be noticed and wanting to avoid seeming needy. When you grow up being the responsible one, the strong one, or the hyper-independent giver, your mind internalizes a toxic message. Your joy comes last. You learn to downplay your needs until they disappear. You become the one who remembers everyone else's milestone, but completely forgets your own. And over time, your birthday starts to feel entirely irrelevant. If someone planned something big for you, you wouldn't even know how to react. It would feel awkward, unnecessary, unearned. But that discomfort with being celebrated isn't humility. It's profound emotional fatigue. Deep down, you still crave to feel seen, but not in a loud way. You don't want attention. You want understanding. You want someone to remember not just your date of birth, but who you've been becoming all year while surviving in the dark. The more emotionally self-reliant you become, the harder it feels to receive love without immediate suspicion. So birthdays become neutral zones, places where vulnerability would normally surface, but gets replaced by cold practicality. It's fine. Let's just get through the day. But behind that quiet tone, your mind is drowning in a dozen emotions. You feel nostalgia for childhood excitement, subtle sadness at lost connections, and a soft, aching longing for the kind of joy that used to come effortlessly. Even if you think you've outgrown birthdays, a part of you still remembers what it felt like to be loved without hesitation. Psychologists call it temporal self-awareness. It's the exact moment you look back at the person you were a year ago and quietly measure the massive, painful gap between who you wanted to be and who you actually are right now. Sometimes that gap is too uncomfortable to look at. That's why birthdays feel like mirrors, not parties. They highlight the silent distance between expectation and reality. Rather than face that agonizing reflection, you prefer to downplay the day altogether. But it's not apathy. It's introspection. It's your mind saying, "Please, just give me space to process my own timeline." If you've ever felt strange about your birthday, like you're supposed to feel something happy, but you just don't know that it's normal, you're not ungrateful. You're simply aware that time is moving and that validation feels entirely different now. When you were a kid, your birthday was about the world recognizing you. When you're an adult, it's about you recognizing yourself. It's less about presence and more about presence. Less about who shows up and more about how much of you has actually shown up in your own life. That's the subtle shift most people don't talk about, yet it explains everything. Because maybe we've stopped trying to be celebrated by a world that doesn't care and started trying to make peace with our own lonely journey. But even in that peace, there's an echo, a quiet, fragile voice that whispers, "I hope someone still remembers." You can be content and still crave connection. You can be grounded and still miss the thrill of being seen. That's human. Treating your birthday like a normal day doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've learned that joy isn't something to be scheduled. It's something you carry quietly in the small ways you keep showing up for yourself. It's the softest, most invisible kind of celebration. When someone treats their birthday like a normal day, They're redefining joy. They're saying, I no longer need the world's permission to feel good about being alive. Somewhere along the road, we all learned that the things which once made us feel special, the gifts, the parties, the social media posts, begin to lose their glow. What starts to matter more is alignment. Did I live this year in a way that feels true? Did I grow? Did I show up when it mattered? Maybe your celebration now looks like going for a walk completely alone, cooking your favorite meal, or taking a quiet day off just to think. It's not the loud joy of balloons. It's the soft joy of solitude. Silence can be sacred. When your values and your actions begin to match, you experience a deeper sense of fulfillment, even without external validation. So when someone spends their birthday quietly, it's not apathy, it's alignment. They're no longer chasing a celebration that is loud, fleeting, and performative. But still, there's a heavy emotional undercurrent that flows beneath that peace. Because while some people truly feel content spending their birthday like a normal day, others quietly wish they didn't have to. They wish someone else would take the initiative for once. They wish they didn't have to pretend that it doesn't matter. They want to be noticed without asking. They want to be celebrated without requesting space for it. It's that universal ache between independence and intimacy. When people grow up in environments where affection was inconsistent or conditional, they learn to depend entirely on themselves. But even the most self-sufficient people carry a quiet hope that someone will see through their armor. So, a birthday becomes a subtle, unspoken test. Not one you announce, but one your mind quietly observes. Who remembered? Who reached out without a Facebook reminder? Who still sees you when you make yourself invisible? Even if you tell yourself it doesn't matter, a small, desperate part of you still checks. That's not weakness. It's humanity. No matter how emotionally independent we become, we never outgrow the need for connection. We just get better at hiding it. If your past years have been fulfilling, birthdays feel like milestones. But if the last year has been heavy, confusing, or traumatic, a birthday can feel like a sudden, violent confrontation with yourself. It's a reminder that another year has passed, and the questions you haven't answered are still waiting in the dark. That's why many people prefer to blur the day into the rest of the week. It's self-preservation. It's saying, I'll reflect when I'm ready. But even in that quiet, the day carries weight. It stirs memory, gratitude, regret, and nostalgia all at once. Your subconscious takes inventory of everything that's changed and everything that hasn't. Birthdays force you to pause, even for a moment, and ask, am I living honestly? Am I still becoming someone I recognize? Do I like the story I'm telling with my life? When you treat your birthday like a normal day, you're facing those questions quietly, privately, without an audience. Because not every kind of growth needs to be broadcast. Some growth is completely invisible. It's in the way you forgive faster, complain less, or find beauty in moments that once went unnoticed. Still, there's a gentle truth worth remembering. Even the most self-sufficient souls still deserve to feel special once in a while. The ones who treat their birthdays like any other day are usually the exact same people who hold space for everyone else's milestones. They're the quiet anchors, the ones who check on you first, the ones who give without keeping score. And sometimes, those people forget that they too deserve light. It is okay to let others give back. You don't have to earn joy by being strong all year round. Even the independent hearts still need to be seen. Not for what they do, but for who they are. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. If you've ever felt that quiet ache on your birthday, the kind that doesn't demand attention, but still hums deep beneath your chest, that's your heart reminding you that connection still matters. You're human, and that's the whole point of the day. It's not to celebrate perfection. It's to celebrate the fact that you're still here, still learning, still evolving, still trying to make sense of what it means to live. Maybe the psychology of people who treat their birthday like a normal day isn't about indifference at all. Maybe it's about integration, the acceptance that not every emotion has to be loud to be real. And yet, one text can still change everything. One voice note, one call, one moment of true presence. We underestimate how much those tiny acknowledgments mean to someone who says, "It's just another day." To them, it's about sincerity. It's about being reminded that their quiet existence still ripples outward, that it still matters to someone. Deep down, none of us truly want to be invisible. We just want to be loved in the language we understand. Some people want fireworks, others just want peace. Some people want crowds, others want just one person who actually listens. If your birthday feels ordinary, if you went to work, made your coffee, checked your messages, and carried on, maybe that's not something to fix. Maybe it's something to honor. You're saying, "My life is already full enough to not need one day to make it meaningful." That's gratitude in disguise. But at the same time, let yourself be soft. If you miss the excitement you once had, it's okay to feel that too. Missing your younger self doesn't mean you've regressed. It means you're remembering what innocence felt like before the world taught you restraint. Perhaps that's the greatest gift you can give yourself today. To remember the child who once counted down to midnight with glowing eyes, who believed that one day could hold infinite magic. Because that child is still somewhere inside you, waiting not for a party, but for acknowledgement, waiting for you to whisper, "Hey, I see you. We made it another year." That's the kind of celebration that doesn't fade when the candles go out. If your birthday ever feels like just another day, don't feel guilty for it. It's evolution. It's the mind learning that meaning doesn't need noise. And yet, in the quiet, if someone remembers, let them. Let them say your name. Let them remind you that you matter. Because you do. Even on the days that feel completely ordinary. Even when you treat your birthday like a normal day. Especially then. Learning that celebration doesn't always need confetti is the most beautiful part of growing up. Sometimes it just needs awareness, a moment of stillness, a deep breath. You don't have to make a wish. You already are one.